Behind the iron gates of London's deepest vaults lies a history forged in gold and diamond. These are not merely ornaments of vanity. They are the silent witnesses to centuries of British dynastic power, whispered secrets, and the heavy burdens of the crown. Each tiara tells a story of a princess caught between duty and desire. In the flickering candlelight of the tower, the cold stones hum with the echoes of those who wore them. We begin our journey through the shadows of the royal treasury, where every facet reflects a fragment of a lost world. The Koh-i-Noor, the mountain of light, carries a weight far greater than its carats. Legend warns that any male who wears it shall suffer a tragic fate, leaving the diamond to the exclusive possession of British queens and princesses. It sits nestled in the crown, a brilliant yet ominous centerpiece. Its history is soaked in the blood of empires and the tears of the conquered. As it moved from the hands of Indian Maharajas to the British monarchy, it became a symbol of both colonial triumph and an ancient, enduring curse that lingers in the palace's silent corridors. Princess Charlotte of Wales was once the hope of a nation, but her story is one of heartbreak etched in silver. Known for her vibrant spirit, she possessed jewels that were intended to signify a new era for the monarchy. However, her untimely death in childbirth left her collection as a somber reminder of what might have been. The jewels she once wore with joy were locked away, becoming relics of a mourning kingdom. In the dim light of the palace archives, her portraits show a woman draped in diamonds, unaware that her lineage would soon shift to another branch. Queen Victoria's reign transformed the very nature of royal jewelry. Following the death of her beloved Prince Albert, the court was plunged into a decades-long period of mourning. Her tiaras became smaller, more personal, often featuring jet or diamonds set in darkened silver to reflect her grief. These widow's weeds in jewelry form influenced generations of princesses. The air in the palace grew heavy with the scent of lilies and old paper, as the queen sought solace in the cold embrace of her treasures, creating a visual language of sorrow that defined an entire era. The Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara is perhaps the most famous of all, yet its beauty is synonymous with the burden of expectation. Commissioned by Queen Mary, it was designed to mimic an older heirloom, featuring swinging pearls that chime like tiny bells with every movement. When it passed to Princess Diana, it became an icon of modern royalty, yet she often complained of the headaches caused by its sheer weight. It stands as a testament to the physical and emotional toll of the crown, a glittering cage that binds the wearer to the unyielding traditions of the past. Tucked away for decades, the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara remained a secret within the royal vaults until it emerged for a royal wedding. Originally part of a massive bequest from a wealthy socialite, it features a staggering 93.7-carat emerald at its center. The design, inspired by the Russian imperial court, represents the far-reaching influence of European dynasties. Its deep green hue suggests a connection to the ancient earth, a stark contrast to the cold white diamonds surrounding it. This tiara speaks of hidden wealth and the strategic alliances that have long secured the British throne's survival. Princess Margaret, the rebel of the royal family, chose a tiara that broke tradition. The Poltimore tiara was not a family heirloom, but a piece she purchased for herself, a rare act of independence. Standing tall and imposing, it matched her fiery personality and her desire to stand out from the shadow of her sister, the Queen. It was famously worn in a bathtub photograph, blending royal grandeur with a touch of scandal. In the quiet halls of Kensington Palace, the Poltimore remains a symbol of a princess who dared to define royalty on her own terms. The Cartier Halo tiara is a masterclass in understated elegance, Yet its history is intertwined with the transition into the modern age. Originally a gift from King George VI to his wife, it was later lent to Princess Margaret and eventually to the Duchess of Cambridge. Its halo effect is created by 739 brilliant cut diamonds that catch the light in a continuous shimmer. It represents the continuity of the royal line, a bridge between the austerity of the mid-20th century and the renewed glamour of the 21st, shimmering softly through the fog of time and tradition. The lotus flower tiara, once a necklace belonging to the Queen Mother, was dismantled and reimagined into a delicate floral crown. This transformation mirrors the adaptability of the British monarchy itself, taking the old and reshaping it for a new generation. Worn by Princess Margaret and later by the Duchess of Cambridge, its papyrus and lotus motifs hint at an exotic influence hidden within the traditional British aesthetic. Each petal of the diamond flower represents a moment of reinvention, a silent acknowledgement that for the crown to survive, it must be willing to change its shape. Unlike many royal jewels, the Spencer tiara belongs to an aristocratic family rather than the crown. It gained global fame when Lady Diana Spencer chose to wear her family's heirloom for her wedding to the Prince of Wales. Its light, scrolling foliage design made of gold, silver, and diamonds became a symbol of her connection to her own lineage, rather than just the one she was marrying into. Even in the dim, hallowed halls of St. Paul's Cathedral, the Spencer tiara sparkled with a personal history that would eventually challenge the very foundations of the monarchy. The Spencer tiara was not a single creation, but an evolution of history, assembled from various Spencer family jewels over generations. In the 1930s, the central motif, a gift from Lady Sarah Spencer to the Viscountess Althorp, was integrated into the foliage design we recognize today. This transition marked a shift from individual gems to a cohesive ancestral crown. As it rested in the velvet-lined coffers of Althorp House, it whispered of a lineage that predated the House of Windsor. The tiara represented a quiet, aristocratic power, waiting for a bearer who would take its brilliance beyond the confines of English country estates and onto the global stage. Crafted by the master jewelers at Gerard, the Spencer tiara features a delicate arrangement of stylized tulips, stars, and scrolling foliage. Unlike the heavy, formal tiaras of the royal collection, its frame was surprisingly light, allowing for a grace of movement that suited the young Lady Diana perfectly. The silver and gold settings were designed to disappear, leaving only the constellations of diamonds to dance in the light. This craftsmanship was a testament to the discreet wealth of the British peerage, where elegance was measured by the intricacy of the work rather than the sheer size of the stones. It was a crown designed for a girl who would become a queen of hearts. While Diana's tiara spoke of family, Princess Margaret's choice spoke of rebellion and personal agency. In 1959, the younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II did something unheard of for a princess. She purchased her own wedding crown. The Poltimore tiara was an imposing piece of Victorian engineering, originally made for Lady Poltimore in 1870. Standing tall and formidable, it could be broken down into a necklace and 11 brooches. For Margaret, this wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a statement of independence. She chose it not because it was offered by the crown, but because its bold, towering silhouette matched her own fiery spirit and refusal to live in her sister's shadow. The acquisition of the Poltimore tiara at auction was a scandal whispered behind closed doors. In the mid-century, royals were expected to wear what was inherited, not bid against commoners for the spoils of declining estates. Yet, the auction house was a place of shifting tides. Margaret's purchase for £5,500 signaled a new era where the royal family had to navigate a world that was rapidly modernizing. The tiara itself, with its grand floral scrolls and high peaks, was a relic of the high Victorian era. But in Margaret's hands, it became a symbol of the mid-century New Elizabethan age. Glamorous, slightly dangerous, and fiercely modern, appeared like a mountain of light against her simple silk organza gown. It was the first televised royal wedding, and the Poltimore's scale was perfectly suited for the camera. Its height gave her an extra sense of stature, a royal armor for a woman who was constantly scrutinized by the press. The tiara was no longer just a Victorian heirloom. It was the crown of a princess who dared to define herself on her own terms. Amidst the changing tides of a post-war Britain, perhaps the most iconic image of the Poltimore tiara was not from a state banquet, but from a private moment in a bathtub. Taken by her husband, Lord Snowdon, the photograph showed Margaret wearing the tiara while submerged in water, her hair piled high to support the heavy frame. It was an image that blurred the lines between royal dignity and human intimacy, a glimpse behind the palace curtains. The tiara, usually a symbol of public duty, became in that moment a piece of personal theater. This juxtaposition of the sacred jewel and the mundane setting captured the duality of Margaret's life. A princess trapped by tradition, yet constantly seeking a way to break free. The story of British tiaras would be incomplete without the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece so beloved it eventually appeared on the nation's currency. Originally a wedding gift to Queen Mary in 1893, it was purchased by a committee of women who raised the funds through public subscription. This tiara was a bridge between the monarchy and the people, a gift of affection from the women of the empire. Its design, featuring fleur-de-lis and festoon motifs, was classic and versatile. Queen Mary, a woman of formidable presence and a legendary collector of jewels, saw this piece as one of her favorites, representing the unbreakable bond between the crown and its subjects. In 1947, Queen Mary passed this cherished tiara to her granddaughter, Princess Elizabeth, as a wedding gift. The young princess, who would soon become the nation's longest reigning monarch, wore it frequently in the early years of her marriage. It became her signature piece, often referred to as Granny's tiara. For Elizabeth, it was more than just an ornament. It was a link to her grandmother's strength and the continuity of the royal line. As she wore it to formal dinners and on state tours, the tiara became a symbol of a new era of stability and grace, a glittering beacon for a Britain recovering from the scars of World War II. The Granny's tiara was remarkably adaptable. Originally, it featured a row of upright pearls along the top, which Queen Mary later replaced with diamonds, using the pearls for her own lover's knot tiara. This constant evolution of jewels, dismantling one to create another, is a hallmark of royal history. These tiaras are living artifacts, reshaped to fit the fashions of the day or the personal preferences of the wearer. As Elizabeth wore the all-diamond version throughout her reign, it became the image of the monarchy itself, stamped onto every pound note and postage stamp, a reminder that the crown is both an inheritance and a constant transformation of the past. As the 20th century progressed, the British royal tiaras began to reflect the complex web of European history. Many pieces, like the Vladimir tiara, arrived in the British collection through the chaos of the Russian Revolution. These jewels carried with them the ghosts of fallen empires and the desperate stories of princesses who smuggled diamonds through war-torn borders in their coat linings. The British collection became a sanctuary for these nomadic treasures. Every time a princess adjusted her tiara before a banquet, she was not just preparing for a party. She was donning a map of European diplomacy, war, and survival, etched in platinum and ice. Queen Mary, the formidable consort of King George V, possessed an insatiable appetite for historical jewels. Her eye was fixed on the Vladimir tiara, a masterpiece of interlocking circles smuggled out of revolutionary Russia in a pair of nondescript leather bags. When she finally acquired it from the Grand Duchess Elena Vladimirovna in 1921, it was more than a purchase. It was an act of preservation. Mary recognized that the Romanov world had vanished into the snows of history, but its brilliance could live on through the British crown. She treated these jewels as sacred artifacts of a lost civilization, ensuring they would never be lost to the shadows again. The Vladimir tiara arrived in London damaged, its pearls lackluster and its frame weary from its perilous journey across borders. Queen Mary, ever the perfectionist, commissioned the royal jewelers to perform a transformation that would define the piece for a century. She ordered the creation of a mechanism that allowed the original pearls to be swapped for the Cambridge emeralds, vivid green stones with their own long, storied lineage. This versatility turned the tiara into a living organism of fashion and politics. In the quiet, dusty workshops of Gerard, the sound of tiny hammers on gold echoed like a heartbeat, blending the Russian soul with British tradition. As the 1920s roared into the 1930s, the aesthetic of the British monarchy began to shift away from the heavy, ornate Victorian styles toward the geometric precision of Art Deco. Tiaras became taller and more architectural, mirroring the skyscrapers rising across the Atlantic. These pieces were designed to be seen from the furthest corners of a ballroom, catching the light like lighthouses in a sea of velvet and silk. Princesses wore these jagged, diamond-encrusted crowns as armor against a world that was rapidly modernizing. Each sharp angle in the platinum was a statement of endurance, a bridge between the ancient traditions of the palace and the mechanical pulse of the new age. Princess Margaret, the rebellious younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II, broke tradition by purchasing her own tiara rather than relying solely on the family vaults. In 1959, she acquired the Poltimore tiara at auction, a towering masterpiece of silver and gold. It was a bold move that signaled her independence and her distinct, modern identity within the rigid structure of the House of Windsor. The Poltimore was grand, almost intimidating in its height, and it became synonymous with Margaret's glamorous, often tempestuous life. It was a crown she chose for herself, a rare act of self-definition in a world where every jewel was usually a gift or an inheritance. Deep beneath the stone floors of the royal residences lie the vaults, where the tiaras reside when the music stops and the lights dim. These are not merely storage rooms. They are silent archives of power. Controlled for temperature and guarded by heavy iron doors, the vaults hold the weight of centuries. Here, the tiaras rest on velvet cushions, their diamonds cold and dark, waiting for the next ceremony. The air is thick with the scent of old metal and history. In the silence, the jewels seem to pulse with the memories of the queens who wore them, the triumphs, the losses, and the secrets whispered under their glittering weight. In 1942, a wealthy socialite named Mrs. Greville bequeathed her entire jewelry collection to the Queen Mother. Among these treasures was the Greville honeycomb tiara, a bold, multi-layered design by Boucheron. It was a piece that bridged the gap between the high society glamour of the Edwardian era and the regal dignity of the mid-20th century. The Queen Mother loved its substantial presence, and she had it altered to make it even taller, adding more diamonds to its honeycomb structure. This tiara became her signature, a sparkling wall of light that she wore through the darkest days of the war, a symbol of resilience that never lost its luster. During the Second World War, The safety of the crown jewels was a matter of national security. Legend has it that some of the most precious stones were removed from their settings and hidden in cocoa tins, buried deep beneath a secret exit at Windsor Castle. The tiaras, too, were kept out of sight, far from the reach of potential invaders. In these dark times, the jewels were no longer symbols of vanity. They were the physical embodiment of British continuity. If the stones survived, the monarchy survived. The princesses who lived through the Blitz knew that their crowns were not just for show. They were a promise that the light would eventually return. On the morning of her wedding in 1947, Princess Elizabeth faced a royal bride's nightmare. As she was being dressed, the fringed tiara, a piece originally made for Queen Mary, snapped in two. The jeweler was summoned under police escort to make emergency repairs just hours before the ceremony. The tension in the palace was palpable. The broken tiara felt like a fragile omen in a post-war world struggling to rebuild. Yet the jeweler's steady hands prevailed. The tiara was mended, and as Elizabeth walked down the aisle of Westminster Abbey, the slight gap in the diamonds was invisible to the world, a hidden scar representing the resilience of the crown. The 1953 coronation of Elizabeth II was a moment of ancient ritual meeting the modern age. While the heavy St. Edward's crown was used for the crowning itself, the Queen arrived and departed in the more elegant George IV state diadem. This tiara, featuring roses, thistles, and shamrocks, was designed for a king, but perfected by a queen. As she sat in the gold state coach, the diadem shimmered through the mist of a rainy London day. It was a visual anchor for a nation looking toward a new Elizabethan age. The jewels were no longer just heritage. They were the shining face of a young woman carrying the weight of an empire on her brow. In 1947, known affectionately as Granny's tiara. A wedding gift to Queen Mary in 1893, it was later given to Elizabeth as a wedding present in 1947. Known affectionately as Granny's tiara, it became her most frequently worn piece, appearing on banknotes and postage stamps worldwide. Its delicate festoon and fleur-de-lis design became the definitive image of a modern queen. For Elizabeth, this tiara was a bridge to the grandmother who had taught her the duty of the crown. It was a sparkling legacy of female lineality, worn with a grace that turned a gift of diamonds into an icon of stability. Beyond the beloved festoons of the girls of Great Britain and Ireland, tiara lies a piece with a far more perilous history. The Grand Duchess Vladimir tiara. Originally commissioned by the Romanov dynasty, this circle of interlaced diamond rings was smuggled out of a revolutionary Russia in a daring rescue. Its journey from the dark, cold vaults of St. Petersburg to the light of the British court is a testament to the enduring bonds of European royalty. For the British princesses who would later wear it, the tiara represented not just beauty, but the survival of a legacy against the tides of political upheaval. In 1917, as the Russian Empire crumbled, the Grand Duchess Vladimir fled her palace, leaving her magnificent jewels hidden behind a secret wall. It was a British intelligence officer, Albert Stopford, who risked his life to retrieve them. Dressed as a workman, he infiltrated the palace under the cover of night, guided only by candlelight and a map. He discovered the jewels safely tucked away in a leather bag. This daring extraction ensured that one of the world's most versatile tiaras would eventually find its way into the collection of Queen Mary, preserving a piece of Romanov history forever. Upon reaching London, the Vladimir tiara was in desperate need of repair. Queen Mary, a connoisseur of fine jewelry, saw its potential for transformation. She ordered the tiara to be modified so that its original hanging pearls could be swapped for the Cambridge emeralds, or removed entirely for a more understated look. This adaptability became a hallmark of the British royal collection. The tiara transformed from a symbol of Russian imperial might into a versatile icon of British majesty, often seen shimmering under the chandeliers of Buckingham Palace, its emeralds glowing with a deep, verdant fire. The Vladimir tiara became a favorite of Queen Elizabeth II, who appreciated its ability to match different ensembles. Whether adorned with its original swinging pearls for a classic look or the vibrant emeralds for a bold statement, the tiara remained a constant in her long reign. It served as a bridge between the lost world of the Romanovs and the enduring stability of the House of Windsor. Each pearl and emerald told a story of survival, of a crown that endured while others fell, polished to a brilliant shine that defied the darkness of the history it had witnessed. Transitioning from the grand circles of the Vladimir, we encounter the delicate lotus flower tiara. Originally a necklace given to the Queen Mother as a wedding gift in 1923, she found it too heavy for her taste and had it dismantled to create this light, airy headpiece. Its design, featuring papyrus and lotus motifs, reflected the Art Deco obsession with Egyptian archaeology following the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. It was a tiara born of a desire for modernity and comfort, shedding the weight of the past to embrace the Jazz Age elegance that was sweeping through the royal courts of Europe. Princess Margaret later made the lotus flower tiara her own, wearing it with a distinctive flair that matched her rebellious and glamorous spirit. It was the piece she chose for many of her most high-profile appearances in the 1950s and 60s. The tiara's low profile and intricate diamond work complemented the bold fashion of the mid-century, proving that royal jewels could evolve with the times. For Margaret, the tiara was not just a symbol of rank, but a fashion statement, a way to weave her personal identity into the rigid fabric of royal tradition and expectation. The Cartier Halo Scroll Tiara, though modest in size, carries a weight of history far greater than its physical presence. Purchased by King George VI for his wife shortly before his accession, it was gifted to Princess Elizabeth on her 18th birthday. Composed of 739 brilliant cut diamonds and 149 baton diamonds, its design mimics a shimmering halo of light. Although Elizabeth rarely wore it in public, it remained a significant piece in the royal vault, waiting for the moment it would once again capture the world's imagination by adorning a new generation of royal brides. In 2011, the Halo Scroll Tiara stepped back into the global spotlight when Kate Middleton wore it for her wedding to Prince William. It was the perfect choice for a modern princess, elegant, understated, yet deeply rooted in the history of the House of Windsor. The tiara's simple scrolls shone brightly as she entered Westminster Abbey, symbolizing a bridge between the traditional monarchy and the contemporary world. This moment breathed new life into the Cartier piece, transforming it from an 18th birthday relic into a symbol of a new era for the British royal family. Not all royal tiaras began their lives in the palace. The Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara was part of a massive bequest from Dame Margaret Greville, a wealthy socialite and close friend of the Queen Mother. Mrs. Greville left her entire spectacular jewelry collection to the royals in 1942, a gift so vast it was kept secret for years to avoid appearing insensitive during the war. The Kokoshnik, with its massive central emerald and rose-cut diamonds, sat hidden in a black tin box for decades, a sleeping giant of the royal collection waiting for its turn to dazzle once more. Not all royal tiaras began their lives in the palace. The Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara was part of a massive bequest from Dame Margaret Greville, a wealthy socialite and close friend of the Queen Mother. Mrs. Greville left her entire spectacular jewelry collection to the royals in 1942, a gift so vast it was kept secret for years to avoid appearing insensitive during the war. The kokoshnik, with its massive central emerald and rose-cut diamonds, sat hidden in a black tin box for decades, a sleeping giant of the royal collection waiting for its turn to dazzle once more. Transitioning from the vibrant emeralds of the modern era, we descend back into the hushed, velvet-lined vaults to uncover the Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara. Perhaps the most famous piece in the collection, its history is a tapestry of devotion and duty. Commissioned by Queen Mary in 1913, it was designed to replicate a 19th-century original owned by her grandmother. This act of recreation was not merely about fashion, but about anchoring the present to a storied past. The tiara features 19 swinging oriental pearls suspended from diamond knots, creating a rhythmic elegance that has graced the brows of the monarchy's most iconic women. Queen Mary was a woman of meticulous order and a profound collector of history. She sacrificed her own jewels, dismantling the Ladies of England tiara to provide the diamonds for this new masterpiece. The Lover's Knot was born from the literal remains of older stories, transformed into a symbol of the House of Windsor's continuity. As Mary wore the piece, it became synonymous with her formidable presence at the dawn of a new century. The design, with its romantic bow motifs and teardrop pearls, masked the immense weight of the platinum, a physical burden representing the heavy expectations placed upon a royal consort. The tiara eventually passed to Queen Elizabeth II, who later loaned it to the young Diana, Princess of Wales, as a wedding gift. It was through Diana that the Lover's Knot achieved global legendary status. Her blonde hair and blue eyes were often framed by the shimmering pearls as she moved through the halls of power and the crowds of the world. However, the beauty of the piece came with a cost. Diana famously remarked on the tiara's weight, noting that its heavy swing gave her migraines. It became a metaphor for her life, a dazzling exterior concealing the strain of a role that demanded perfection. Following Diana's tragic passing, the Lover's Knot was returned to the royal vaults, where it remained hidden from public view for nearly 2 decades. The silence surrounding the piece only added to its aura of mystery and mourning. It sat in the dark, a silent witness to a changing monarchy, waiting for a new chapter. The pearls remained still, no longer swinging with the movements of a princess, as the world moved on. Yet the memory of its sparkle lived on in photographs, haunting the collective consciousness of a public that associated the jewels with the lost people's princess and her complex royal journey. In the early 2000s, the tiara re-emerged, finding a new guardian in Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge. By wearing the piece to state banquets, Catherine bridged the gap between the era of Diana and the modern face of the monarchy. The tiara was no longer a relic of the past, but a living part of the present. This transition signaled a stabilization of the royal image, where the jewels served as tools of diplomacy and symbols of endurance. The Lover's Knot once again walked the halls of Buckingham Palace, its pearls swaying under the glow of crystal chandeliers, reclaiming its status as the quintessential crown of a future queen. While the Lover's Knot commands attention, other pieces like the lotus flower tiara tell a subtler story of transformation. Originally a necklace given to the Queen Mother as a wedding gift in 1923, it was quickly dismantled and reimagined as a tiara. This practice of upcycling was common among the royals, reflecting a desire to adapt to shifting fashions. The lotus flower, with its delicate papyrus motifs and Art Deco sensibilities, represented the Jazz Age elegance of the 1920s. It was a lighter, more ethereal alternative to the heavy Victorian crowns. designed for a woman who navigated a world in the midst of rapid social change. The lotus flower tiara eventually became a favorite of Princess Margaret, the Queen's sister. Known for her glamour and her rebellious spirit, Margaret wore the piece lower on her forehead, embracing the bohemian style of her era. In her hands, the tiara was not just a symbol of rank, but an accessory of high fashion. She often paired it with bold gowns and a sharp wit, using the jewels to define her own unique identity within the rigid structure of the palace. The lotus flower's delicate spikes and floral curves matched Margaret's vibrant, often unpredictable personality, proving that even ancient stones can reflect modern fire. Decades later, the lotus flower tiara was resurrected for a new generation. When Catherine wore it to a state banquet for the Chinese president, it was a masterclass in royal styling. The piece, once associated with the Queen Mother's grace and Margaret's edge, now symbolized the seamless continuity of the Windsor women. Its sleek Art Deco lines appeared strikingly modern against a contemporary silhouette. This ability of the royal collection to remain relevant across a century is a testament to the timelessness of their design. The lotus flower continues to bloom, its diamonds flashing in the flashbulbs of the 21st century while rooted in the 20th. Perhaps no tiara in recent memory has captured the public's imagination like the Cartier Halo Tiara. Made in 1936, it was a modest purchase by King George VI for his wife, later given to Princess Elizabeth on her 18th birthday. However, it achieved global fame in 2011 when Kate Middleton chose it for her wedding to Prince William. The halo name is literal. The 73 scroll-shaped fins create a shimmering ring of light around the head. Its understated elegance was the perfect choice for a commoner-turned princess, bridging the gap between the grandeur of the monarchy and the simplicity of modern romance. As we reach the midpoint of our journey through the royal vaults, a clear pattern emerges. These tiaras, the lover's knot, the lotus flower, the halo, are more than just ornaments. They are vessels of memory and transition. They have traveled from the stern brows of wartime queens to the smiling faces of modern princesses, absorbing the history of each wearer. Each stone is a silent witness to weddings, funerals, and the quiet moments of duty that define a life in the public eye. The story of British princesses is etched into these diamonds, a narrative of survival, adaptation, and the enduring power of a royal legacy that refuses to fade. Emerging from the depths of the 1920s, we encounter a piece that remained hidden for nearly a century: the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik Tiara. Bequeathed to the Queen Mother by the socialite Margaret Greville, it lay dormant in the vaults, a sleeping giant of emerald and diamond. Unlike the delicate filigree of earlier eras, this tiara boasts a bold, architectural presence, reflecting the Art Deco movement's influence. Its central emerald, a staggering 93 carats, glows with an inner fire, a verdant heart beating within a cage of platinum. It waited decades for a princess worthy of its weight, a hidden relic of a bygone age of high society glamour and aristocratic legacy. In 2018, Princess Eugenie brought this dormant masterpiece back into the light. At St. George's Chapel, the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik was more than a wedding accessory. It was a statement of modern resilience. Chosen to complement the scars on her back, the tiara framed her face with a defiant elegance. The deep green of the emeralds contrasted sharply against the ivory of her gown, symbolizing a bridge between the opulent past of the socialites and the candid, vulnerable strength of a modern princess. It was a moment where the jewelry served the woman, signaling a shift in how these ancient relics are perceived in the contemporary world. Next, we turn to the Queen Mary Fringe Tiara, a piece forged from a necklace given to Mary on her wedding day in 1893. This tiara is a masterpiece of precision, composed of 47 diamond bars that taper to sharp points, resembling a frozen sunburst. Its history is marked by a famous mishap. On the wedding day of Princess Elizabeth in 1947, the tiara snapped as it was being secured. A court jeweler was rushed away by police escort to repair it just moments before the ceremony. It survived that crisis, becoming a symbol of the endurance of the monarchy through the stresses of war and transition. Decades later, the Queen Mary fringe tiara would once again grace a royal bride. This time, Princess Beatrice. In a quiet ceremony during a global crisis, Beatrice chose her grandmother's tiara, bridging generations in a moment of intimate historical continuity. The tiara's sharp diamonds shimmered against a repurposed vintage gown, creating a look that was both deeply personal and profoundly regal. This act of borrowing was a nod to the past and a testament to the frugality and sentimentality that can exist even within the richest vaults of the world. The fringe tiara remains a sentinel of the family's steadfast spirit. No study of these jewels is complete without the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. Originally a wedding gift to Queen Mary, it became the signature piece of Queen Elizabeth II, appearing on banknotes and stamps worldwide. To the public, it is the quintessential crown, but to the princesses who wear it, it represents the heavy burden of the state. Its intricate scrolls and fleur-de-lis motifs are encrusted with diamonds that have seen the collapse of empires and the birth of new eras. It is a crown of the people, funded by a committee of women, yet it sits atop the highest pinnacle of power. The story takes a darker turn with the Vladimir tiara, a relic of the fallen Romanov dynasty. Smuggled out of Russia during the revolution by a British secret agent, it was hidden in a laundry bag to escape the Bolsheviks. Queen Mary purchased it from the Grand Duchess's daughter, adding it to the British collection. This tiara is unique for its versatility. Its pearl drops can be swapped for emeralds or removed entirely, leaving hollow diamond circles. It carries the ghost of the Russian steppes, a reminder of the fragility of crowns and the often violent transitions of power that bring jewels into new hands. The Brazilian aquamarine tiara represents a different kind of royal connection, the bond between the monarchy and the Commonwealth. Gifted to the Queen by the people of Brazil, the set grew over decades as more stones were sent to match the original necklace and earrings. The tiara itself is massive, featuring towering rectangular aquamarines that reflect the cool blue of the ocean. It is a modern construction, yet it feels ancient in its scale. For a princess, wearing such a piece is an exercise in physical and symbolic endurance, carrying the weight of international diplomacy and the affection of distant nations upon her brow. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, has often favored the meander tiara, a piece that reflects her no-nonsense approach to duty. Unlike the towering ornaments of her peers, the meander tiara is a sleek, classical design featuring a Greek key pattern. It was a gift from her grandmother, Alice of Battenberg, who later became a nun. This tiara carries a legacy of sacrifice and service. It does not demand attention through height or massive stones, but through the purity of its form. It is the tiara of a working princess, one who values the history of the lineage over the spectacle of the crown. In the quiet corridors of the palace, the Cartier Indian tiara tells a story of the empire's reach. Though it bears the name Indian, it was actually commissioned by Princess Marie-Louise, a granddaughter of Queen Victoria, and its design was inspired by the patterns of a traditional Indian headdress. Its diamonds are set in a way that mimics the lightness of fabric, a testament to Cartier's skill. This piece has passed through the hands of minor royals, often appearing at the fringes of the spotlight. It represents the intricate branches of the royal family tree, where every member, no matter how distant, carries a piece of the sovereign's history. As we conclude this chapter of the vault's history, we realize that the weight of these tiaras is not merely measured in carats, but in the expectations of a nation. Every princess who secures a tiara into her hair is also fastening herself to a long, unbroken chain of tradition. These jewels are the physical manifestation of the royal mystery. They are beautiful, yes, but they are also gilded shackles that bind the wearer to their ancestors. The light they reflect is the light of 1,000 years of history, a cold and brilliant fire that never truly goes out, even as the faces of the princesses change. We turn our gaze now to Princess Alice, a figure of profound grace who understood that royal jewels were often worn as armor against personal sorrow. Her tiara, a delicate arrangement of diamonds, stood in stark contrast to the turbulent world she inhabited. While the public saw only the shimmering brilliance of her status, the princess felt the cold metal against her brow as a reminder of her duty to a lineage that demanded everything. These gems were not merely ornaments. They were witnesses to the quiet strength required to maintain a composed facade, while the winds of change threatened to uproot the very foundations of the monarchy. Deep within the bowels of the royal jewelers, the creation of a tiara is a ritual of precision and silence. Master craftsmen work by the amber glow of oil lamps, their hands steady as they set stones that have survived centuries of upheaval. Each diamond is selected for its story as much as its clarity, woven into a frame of platinum that must be light enough to wear, yet strong enough to carry the weight of a kingdom's history. Here, the glamorous image of the princess fades, replaced by the gritty reality of labor, where the scent of hot metal and the scratch of files create the physical reality of royal myth. Floral motifs, though delicate in appearance, were a testament to the enduring spirit of the monarchy. Floral motifs, though delicate in appearance, were forged from the hardest stones, representing a beauty that could withstand the harshest winters. For the princesses who wore it, the tiara was a badge of continuity. As they visited bombed-out streets or hospitals, the sparkle of the diamonds provided a flicker of hope to a weary populace, a reminder that even in darkness, the ancient traditions of the British Isles remained unbroken and resolute. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, transformed the lotus flower tiara into an emblem of modern royalty. Originally a necklace, its transition into a headpiece mirrored the adaptability of the crown itself. The lotus, a symbol of rebirth, sat low on her forehead in the fashion of the Roaring Twenties, yet it retained the gravity of its royal origins. This piece bridged the gap between the rigid Victorian past and a more accessible future. However, beneath the stylish exterior, the tiara remained a heavy burden, a circle of diamonds that bound the wearer to the unyielding expectations of the British public and the royal line. During the darkest days of the Blitz, the royal jewels were rumored to be hidden in biscuit tins and buried deep beneath Windsor Castle. This secrecy added a layer of mystery to the tiaras, which became ghost-like entities, absent from the public eye, but ever present in the national consciousness. The thought of these priceless artifacts lying in the cold earth, surrounded by ancient stone and damp fog, mirrored the vulnerability of the nation. When they finally re-emerged, their brilliance seemed amplified, as if they had absorbed the grit and determination of the people who had protected them through the long, shadowed years of conflict. The 1953 coronation brought the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara to the forefront of a new era. As the young Queen Elizabeth II was crowned, the tiara represented more than just wealth. It was the crown jewel of a burgeoning Elizabethan age. Yet the ceremony was steeped in ancient ritual, performed in the shadows of Westminster Abbey, where the ghosts of monarchs past seemed to watch from the rafters. The diamonds sparkled with a cold, piercing light that cut through the incense and fog, marking a moment where the weight of history was formally transferred to a new, solitary figure. Princess Margaret, the rebel of the royal house, chose the Poltimore tiara for her wedding, purchasing it herself rather than drawing from the royal collection. This act of independence was a rare fissure in the wall of tradition. The tiara was immense, a towering structure of diamonds that seemed to dwarf the princess, symbolizing the overwhelming nature of the life she was expected to lead. In the dim light of the chapel, the Poltimore glowed with a fierce, almost defiant energy, representing a woman who sought to define herself within the rigid, ancient confines of a world governed by shadows and duty. The Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara, with its swinging pearls and heavy diamond frame, is perhaps the most famous of all, yet it is often described as physically painful to wear. The weight of the pearls causes the frame to press into the scalp, a literal manifestation of the crown that weighs heavy. For the princesses who wore it, including Diana, the tiara was a beautiful torment. It captured the public's imagination, its swaying gems reflecting the flashbulbs of 1,000 cameras. Yet behind the sparkle lay the reality of a headache, induced by the very symbol of one's elevated status. In the quiet archives of the palace, the records of these jewels are kept on yellowed parchment, detailing every repair and every occasion they were worn. These documents are the blueprints of a mystery, tracking the movement of stones from one setting to another over centuries. The archivists work in near silence, aware that they are the custodians of a narrative that transcends any single human life. The tiaras are cleaned with meticulous care, the dust of history brushed away to reveal the eternal fire of the diamonds, ensuring that the legacy remains ready for the next princess to take up the burden. As the sun sets over the modern monarchy, the tiaras return to their steel vaults, tucked away behind thick doors that muffle the sounds of the outside world. Here in the dark, they wait. They do not age. They do not change. They simply exist as silent sentinels of 1,000-year history, their brilliance undimmed by the passage of time. The cycle continues as the vault awaits the next chapter, the next princess, and the next story to be written in light and stone. The mystery remains intact, guarded by the very jewels that define the essence of the British royal identity. Within the quietude of the Tower of London, the archives reveal sketches of designs that never were. These parchment records, stained by time and the flickering grease of tallow candles, whisper of tiaras intended for queens who never ascended the throne. Each ink stroke represents a forgotten ambition, a marriage alliance that crumbled before the gold could be cast. The mystery of the British crown isn't just in what is worn, but in what remains hidden in the shadows of the design room. These ghost jewels haunt the ledger books, waiting for a memory to revive their crystalline forms within the royal history. We look back to the Victorian era, where the weight of a tiara was often a physical manifestation of duty. Queen Victoria, in her perpetual mourning, favored smaller, more somber pieces, yet her daughters-in-law were draped in the heavy brilliance of the empire's reach. The transition from the heavy, ornate Victorian styles to the lighter, more fluid Edwardian lines marked a shift in royal identity. It was a time of grand balls and secret diplomatic maneuvers, where a single brooch or a towering tiara could signal a shift in political favor or the strengthening of a fragile European peace. Consider the tale of the honeysuckle tiara, a piece of intricate craftsmanship that has seen generations of royal transitions. Its motifs of flowers and vines are not merely decorative. They symbolize growth and the enduring nature of the bloodline. In the dim corridors of Kensington Palace, legends speak of the tiara being seen in mirrors even when the vault was locked. Such stories add a layer of spectral intrigue to the physical gems. The jewelry becomes a bridge between the living and the dead, a tangible connection to those who walked these halls centuries before, leaving behind only their sparkle. The acquisition of certain stones remains shrouded in the fog of colonial history and private deals made in moonlit gardens. Diamonds from the depths of the earth, mined in far-off lands, found their way into the delicate filigree of British tiaras. Each stone carried with it the dust of its journey and the weight of the lives touched by its discovery. The jewelers of the 19th century worked in secrecy, cutting and polishing these treasures to fit the heads of the most powerful women in the world. Their tools, now artifacts themselves, once shaped the very image of British imperial majesty. During the dark days of the World Wars, the royal jewels were not merely ornaments. They were symbols of national continuity. Rumors persist that the most precious tiaras were hidden in biscuit tins and buried beneath the floorboards of Windsor Castle to protect them from the threat of invasion. In the cold, damp cellars, the gems lay in total darkness, stripped of their ceremonial glory, but retaining their intrinsic power. This period of concealment added a chapter of grit and survival to the story of the tiaras, proving that their value was as much spiritual as it was material or aesthetic. As peace returned, the jewels were unearthed and restored. The process of cleaning decades of grime from a royal tiara is a ritual of reclamation. Experts at the Crown Jewelers used soft brushes and specialized solutions to reveal the fire trapped within the diamonds once more. This restoration was not just about aesthetics. It was a metaphor for the reconstruction of the monarchy itself in a changing world. Each facet cleaned was a memory polished, ensuring that the legacy of the princesses who wore them would shine brightly for the new Elizabethan era that was about to dawn upon the horizon. Not all tiaras remain within the direct line of the reigning monarch. Some were gifted to distant cousins or lost to history through private sales and inheritance disputes. These lost tiaras occasionally resurface at auction, their origins whispered in hushed tones by collectors and historians. A tiara that once graced the brow of a minor princess in a forgotten portrait can suddenly become the center of a global media frenzy. Each reappearance is a puzzle piece returned to the grand mosaic of the British royal family's history, revealing connections that had been long forgotten in the archives of time. The durability of the diamond is the ultimate symbol of the British royal identity. While silk fades and gold can be melted, the diamond remains unchanged by centuries of wear. This physical permanence mirrors the desired longevity of the crown itself. In the quiet moments before a state banquet, a princess looks into the mirror, her reflection framed by stones that have seen the rise and fall of empires. The tiara is a heavy reminder that she is but a temporary guardian of an eternal flame. The diamond's fire is a cold, brilliant light that guides her through her duty. The relationship between a princess and her tiara is often one of quiet intimacy. There are stories of princesses practicing their gait with the heavy jewels balanced on their heads, learning the precise posture required to carry the weight of history. This private rehearsal, away from the prying eyes of the public and the flashbulbs of the press, is where the woman becomes the royal icon. In these candlelit chambers, the tiara ceases to be an object and becomes a part of her being, an extension of her lineage that she must wear with both grace and unyielding strength. As we look toward the future, the cycle of the tiara continues. New designs may emerge, incorporating modern aesthetics while honoring the traditions of the past. The vault doors will open for a new generation of princesses, each bringing their own story to the stones they wear. The legacy of the British royal jewels is not a closed book. but a living history that evolves with every ceremony and every portrait. The tiaras remain silent and steadfast, waiting to see what the next century will bring to the storied halls of the monarchy and the heads they are destined to adorn. Behind the reinforced steel of the tower, the preservation of history is a meticulous, almost sacred duty. Curators with gloved hands handle the diamonds, checking the integrity of every prong and setting. This is not merely about maintenance. It is about ensuring the continuity of the British state itself. The light of the vault is kept low, protecting the delicate metals from the ravages of time. Every scratch tells a silent story of a grand ball, a royal wedding, or a state dinner. As we move into a new era, these guardians of the past ensure that the royal sparkle never dims. The master jeweler's bench is a site of constant evolution. Here, ancient tiaras are subtly modified, resized to fit the heads of modern princesses with a precision that borders on the surgical. This delicate balance, preserving the original Victorian craftsmanship while making it wearable for a new generation, requires an immense, steady hand. The heat of the torch glows against cold stone walls, casting long, flickering shadows across blueprints and sketches of gems long lost. It is a silent dialogue between the 19th century and the 21st, ensuring the heavy burden of the past remains comfortable for those who must carry it. Looking toward the future and the young Princess Charlotte, the world wonders which of the great heirlooms she will one day choose to wear. Perhaps the Cartier halo tiara, famously worn by her mother, or perhaps a piece that has been hidden from public view for decades. The weight of expectation is visible even in the quietest moments of royal transition. The legacy of her great-grandmother, the late Queen, serves as a blueprint for her future path. In the silent corridors of the palace, the stones wait for their next wearer, their brilliance dormant but ready to be awakened by a new century. In the modern era, the tiara has shifted from a mandatory signifier of rank to a powerful symbol of institutional stability and grace. During state visits, these jewels act as silent ambassadors, bridging the gap between nations. When a princess steps onto the world stage, the diamonds she wears are more than just decoration. They are a visual shorthand for the history and resilience of the crown. The stones have seen empires rise and fall, yet they remain fundamentally unchanged. This permanence is their greatest strength, providing a sense of grounding in a global society that is constantly in flux. The coronation of King Charles III marked a significant turning point in the aesthetic and presentation of the monarchy. While the focus remained firmly on tradition, a newfound emphasis on sustainability and modernization emerged. This shift influences how the royal jewels are presented and worn today. Tiaras are being recontextualized for a leaner, more focused royal family. The grandeur is still there, but it is now tempered with a sense of duty toward a modern audience. The stones must reflect not just the wealth of the past, but the values of the present, shining with an ancient light. To wear a tiara is to carry the physical and metaphorical weight of history on one's brow. Many of these pieces are incredibly heavy, constructed with solid gold and platinum, and laden with hundreds of carats of diamonds. They are often described by princesses as being restrictive, a literal manifestation of the old saying that the crown lies heavy. This physical discomfort serves as a constant reminder of the sacrifices required by the role. Behind the radiant smiles in official photographs is a grit and determination to uphold the dignity of the office, regardless of the physical toll the jewels take. Beyond the public eye, the relationship between a princess and her jewels is deeply personal and often sentimental. These pieces are frequently gifts from beloved relatives, marking milestones such as weddings or birthdays. In the private apartments of the palace, away from the flashbulbs, a tiara becomes a memory of a grandmother or a mother. This private connection softens the cold brilliance of the stones. When a princess prepares for an event, she isn't just putting on jewelry. She is donning a piece of her own family's heritage, connecting her personal journey to the broader tapestry of the British monarchy. The diplomatic power of the tiara cannot be understated in the theater of international relations. At royal weddings abroad or international summits, these pieces are strategically chosen to honor the host nation or celebrate a shared history. A specific gemstone or design can act as a subtle nod to a foreign ally, fostering goodwill through visual storytelling. The jewels are part of a complex language of protocol and respect. In the high-stakes world of global politics, the sparkle of a royal tiara can provide the necessary gravitas to smooth over tensions and reaffirm the enduring strength of ancient bonds. Within the depths of the royal collection, there are sleeping beauties, tiaras that haven't been seen in public for over half a century. These mysterious pieces, tucked away in velvet-lined boxes, carry stories that have been temporarily forgotten by the public. Some were the favorites of forgotten princesses, others were deemed too extravagant for a more modern era. Yet their potential for revival remains. As the monarchy continues to evolve, the vault doors may one day swing open for these hidden treasures, allowing a new princess to breathe life into their dormant diamonds and start a new chapter of royal history. As we conclude this chapter of the tiara's story, we realize that the stones are the true witnesses of time. They have outlived kings, queens, and the very eras that created them. While the faces of the princesses will change with the passing years, the diamonds remain steadfast, reflecting the light of 1,000 different rooms and 1,000 different lives. The legacy of the British royal jewels is an eternal loop of preservation and adaptation. As long as there is a monarchy, there will be the fire of the diamond, a silent, glittering testament to the endurance of the crown and the women who wear it. Deep within the bowels of the palace, behind iron doors that have not groaned on their hinges for decades, lies the final resting place of the great tiaras between their public appearances. This is not merely a storage room, it is a sanctuary of frozen light. In the cold, still air, the jewels wait in velvet-lined boxes, their history etched into every facet. Here, the weight of the British Empire is felt in the silence. The vault remains a place of mystery, where the ghosts of former queens seem to linger, whispering to the diamonds they once wore with such pride and trepidation. The hands that tend to these treasures are few and sworn to secrecy. Expert jewelers, working by the flicker of candlelight and the precise beam of a modern lamp, examine every claw and setting. To them, the tiara is a living map of history. They see the tiny scratches left by a nervous princess in 1920, or the slight bend in a frame from a coronation a century ago. Their work is a silent prayer to preservation, ensuring that the structural integrity of the crown's legacy remains as unshakable as the monarchy itself, even as the world outside shifts and turns. History is not a straight line, but a cycle of reinvention. The tiaras we see today on modern princesses were often something else entirely in a previous life. Perhaps a necklace worn by a Tudor queen or a brooch gifted by a Russian emperor. This constant evolution is the secret to their longevity. They are dismantled and reborn, adapted to suit the fashions of the Victorian age, the Art Deco era, and the minimalist tastes of the present. Yet, the soul of the stone remains constant, a silent observer to the changing tides of power and the personal joys of the women who inherit them. For a princess, donning a tiara for the first time is a rite of passage that carries an invisible weight. It is the moment she steps out of the shadow of childhood and into the blinding light of public duty. As the cold platinum touches her brow, she is no longer just an individual. She becomes a symbol of continuity. The diamonds reflect not just her face, but the faces of the ancestors who paved the path before her. It is a crown of thorns and roses, a beautiful burden that demands grace, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the crown she serves. The archives of the palace hold more than just jewels. They hold the blueprints of dreams. Ancient parchment scrolls, yellowed by time and smelling of dust and cedar, reveal the original sketches of the world's most famous tiaras. These drawings are the DNA of royalty. Each ink stroke represents a decision made by a monarch to immortalize a moment of triumph or a gesture of love. To study these papers is to understand the meticulous craftsmanship and the artistic vision that transformed raw earth into the glittering symbols of a global dynasty, a process that has remained largely unchanged for centuries. As the sun sets over the gray stones of London, the tiaras catch the dying light, glowing with an inner fire that seems to defy the darkness. They have survived wars that leveled cities and scandals that shook the foundations of the palace. They are the ultimate survivors. In the quiet hours of the night, when the cameras are off and the crowds have dispersed, the jewels are returned to their velvet beds. But their story does not end there. It merely pauses, waiting for the next morning, the next ceremony, and the next princess to carry the torch of tradition forward into the unknown. The public often sees the sparkle, but rarely the sacrifice. To wear these jewels is to accept a life lived in the service of an institution. The tiara is a constant reminder that the wearer is part of something much larger than herself. It dictates how she moves, how she carries her head, and how she is perceived by the world. It is a glittering cage of sorts, beautiful to behold but heavy with the expectations of millions. Through the lens of history, we see that the true brilliance of these princesses lies not in the diamonds they wear, but in the strength they show while wearing them. In the grand tapestry of British history, the tiaras are the golden threads that bind the generations together. From the bold, oversized designs of the Georgian era to the delicate floral motifs of the modern age, they reflect the spirit of their times. They are cultural artifacts that tell us as much about the world's changing politics as they do about jewelry design. When a princess chooses a specific tiara for a state banquet, she is sending a message, a silent nod to her heritage, a tribute to a predecessor, or a statement of her own place in the unfolding narrative of the monarchy. As we reach the final pages of this Chronicles of Gems, we look toward the future. New princesses will emerge, and with them, new ways of wearing these ancient stones. The tiaras will continue to be polished, repaired, and passed down. They are not stagnant relics. They are dynamic symbols of a crown that refuses to fade. The fire within the diamonds is eternal, a spark of the earth that will continue to burn long after the names of those who wear them are relegated to the history books. The legacy of the British royal jewels is a story without an end, a perpetual loop of brilliance. The story of the British tiaras is ultimately a story of endurance. It is the tale of how human craftsmanship and nature's most resilient creations come together to represent the continuity of a nation. As the vault doors close once more, the diamonds remain in the dark, their light undimmed by the passage of time. They are the silent witnesses to the past and the glittering promise of the future. The fire of the diamond, the strength of the platinum, and the grace of the princess. These three elements form the unbreakable bond of the British royal jewels. The legend remains, etched in light and stone forever.